and welcome to our lesson on mortgages. So depending on where you are in your life journey, it's probably a word that you've at least heard of, but it's likely that many of you have a mortgage currently. What is a mortgage? It's a fancy word for a home loan. Why does a home loan so special that it gets its own name? Well, generally because home loans are for enormous amounts of money and for long periods of time. So you get loans for lots of things. You might get a loan for a car, but that's probably going to be a 5 to 7 year loan and maybe a few $100s a month. For a home loan, we're talking about anywhere from 15 to 30, maybe even 40 years on your loan, and we're talking about $1,000, maybe more per month, depending on what kind of a house you decide to buy and what kind of loan you decide to take out. So again, its own fancy name. A mortgage is just a home loan. A mortgage, spelled not phonetically, is a home loan. And what's happening with the home loan is the home is used as collateral. What does that mean? Why would a bank be so willing to lend someone, let's say, $250,000 to buy a house? Well, the house is used as collateral. So if you've purchased a home, you know this. Before you go to buy a house, the house has to be appraised. So a professional has to come out and say, based on the house and its condition, how much the house is worth. So you get an appraisal, the professional appraiser says the house is worth $250,000, then the bank would be willing to loan you that money using the house as collateral, meaning if you don't pay back the bank or pay on your loan, they will take the house from you. So they haven't lost anything because either they get the money back from you, you pay back the loan with a lot of interest, and if you don't pay, they get back the house. So the house, even though you're loaned the money and you're making payments on the mortgage, you can consider yourself a homeowner. You don't officially or technically own the home until you have finished making the payments. If at any point in the loan process you stop making payments, the bank could repossess your home. Okay, so the home is used as collateral. Banks are willing to loan the money because if they don't get the money, they get the house. So one way or another, they are covered. Okay. Typically, when you go to get a mortgage or to buy a home, you're required to make a down payment before you are approved. You're required typically to make a down payment. Sometimes if you're a first-time home buyer, they may have some incentives going around where you can avoid the down payment. But the down payment is a percentage of the cost of the home, and it could be anywhere from 5 to 25% that is required. Again, sometimes you can get around it, but typically a 15% down payment is pretty normal, maybe even a 20% down payment, but I've seen it as high as 25. The bank could say, hey, you have to put 25% down before we'll loan you this amount. Now, there are two types of very typical loans where you have a standard or a fixed loan, a fixed rate loan. And in a standard fixed rate loan, the interest rate is fixed. It doesn't change for the entire duration of the loan. Sometimes you could also get an adjustable rate loan. And with an adjustable rate loan, the interest rate can vary every period depending on the terms of the loan. A fixed rate is going to be a safer one because your payment won't change because your rate won't change, so you know what to expect for the whole term of the loan. An adjustable rate loan might vary. It depends on the loan that you sign, but typically the adjustable rate loan will vary with the market. So like if the stock market's doing well, your loan is probably fine. If it takes a crash, you might have to take a hit on your rate. It kind of goes with the economy, and if the rate changes, it could change the payment or affect the payment. And sometimes with adjustable rate loans, there are different types. You can set it so that you're paying a lower rate in the beginning, thinking that maybe you're younger and you're just starting out in your career, and the longer you work, the more money you'll make, and so you could afford a larger payment later, that type of thing. So adjustable rates are a little scary. It depends on what kind of adjustable rate loan you take, but the rate could change. Okay, so you sign or you apply for a mortgage, you apply for a home loan, you could be required to make a down payment. You could get a fixed rate or adjustable rate loan, and then at the end of the process, you sign all your paperwork. That final process we call closing. The closing process. Let's figure out the close up or wrap up the whole loan thing. Then during that closing process, you might also be required to pay what we call points. And paying points, it's basically paying a prepaid interest that you would pay on your loan, and what you try to do is bring your rate down when you do this. It's a little hard to explain, but points paid at the end of the loan are prepaid interest. So if you prepay the interest, you can bring your rate down. And basically 1 point is equal to 1% of the loan amount. Okay, so think about points in your closing process as prepaid interest to try to pay down your rate up front. All right, we have a formula that we could use to calculate a prospective monthly payment on a mortgage, as long as it is a fixed rate mortgage. Looks a lot like our sinking fund formula, which makes sense because an annuity is a sinking fund reverse annuity is a long-term payment system like a mortgage is. So in our monthly payment formula, the M in our formula represents the mortgage amount. So how much is it that you are borrowing to buy this house? R, should make sense, represents the rate. And we know that the rate is given to us as a percent, but when we plug into formulas, we will convert to a decimal. Then N in our formula is unlike the compounding interest idea that we see in our annuities and sinking funds. Here, it's the number of payments that you make per year. That's generally going to be 12. Generally, you pay your mortgage every month. And then T does represent the time, but it must be in years. Okay, so let's look at a few scenarios where we try to incorporate down payments, points, monthly payments, total cost, interest, all these things that we could encounter with a loan. So in this first example, it says that Patty and Marshall, they wish to purchase a house that's selling for $249,000. They plan to obtain a loan from their bank, and the bank requires a 15% down payment payable to the seller and a payment of 2 points payable to the bank at the time of closing. So the mortgage amount, the house is selling for $249,000. They need to make a 15% down payment, and they have to pay 2 points. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out what their down payment is. So the down payment is 15%. That's 15, or the down payment is always a percentage of the cost. So it's a percent of the cost of your home. So in this case, it's going to be 15% of the $249,000 cost. And to find 15% of $249,000, we're going to take 15%, 0.15, that is, as a decimal, and of means multiply, right? Of 249,000, so multiply it by 249,000. And that's going to give us, oh, sorry, I was doing some college algebra stuff here. 0.15 times 249,000. $37,350. $37,350. That's how much they're going to have to put or come up with cash as a down payment in order for them to be approved for this loan. Okay? Now, remember your Desmos does these percents for you, so you could ask Desmos what is 15, find the percent on the keyboard here, 15% of 249,000, and it would also give you that amount, okay? But the math part of it you should get. Of is multiply. 15% times 249,000 means multiply by 0.15. All right, so what is the mortgage amount? So if they have to make a $37,350 down payment, then they don't have to borrow the whole $249,000. They only have to borrow or mortgage what's left. So how much are they going to mortgage? How much are they going to remember that word mortgage is loan. That's how much are they going to borrow. So the cost, they're going to borrow the cost minus the down payment. So the amount they're going to borrow is going to be the cost, or the, I guess, let's not say cost. Let's say the price. Okay, it's the price minus the down payment. Okay, so the price is $249,000, but they're going to put down $37,350, and so they're only going to have to borrow what's left. So $249,000 minus the $37,350 down payment means they're only going to borrow or mortgage $211,650. I say only. That's a lot of money, okay? But they don't have to borrow all $249,000. So they're putting this much down, they're borrowing the rest. Those two together make up that whole price of $249,000. Now, it says to determine the cost of the 2 points they're going to have to pay on their mortgage. So the bank not only is going to require this down payment, they're going to require 2 points to pay down their rate. So 2 points, that's 2% of the mortgage. That's 2% of the amount they have to borrow. So 0.02 is our decimal there, times the 211, what was it, 650? And that's going to be, let's see, if we multiply this by 0.02, 4,000, let me just make sure $4,233. $4,233. So they're going to have to pay the $37,000 as a down payment, and then another $4,233 as these points. Okay? Now it says to determine the monthly mortgage payment if they were to get a 30-year mortgage with a 7% fixed interest rate. So their monthly payment, let's call it MP, in our formula says take the mortgage amount and multiply by R over N on the top of the fraction. So the mortgage amount was $211,650 multiplied by R over N, and R is 7%, so 0.07. N, this is a monthly payment, so it's going to be 12. And then on the bottom of the fraction, we have, let's see, 1 minus, another parenthesis here, 1 plus R over N, so 1 plus R over N, 0.07 over 12 again, and then this is raised to the negative NT power. So it's a negative N, which is 12 times time power, and time is 30 years. Negative 12 times 30 is that exponent. And make sure I got everything. Yep. All right, so there's our formula. Now we just have to try to get this into the calculator. So let's get rid of all this mess. We're going to make a fraction first, hitting the divide button. In the top, 211,650 multiplied by R over N, so 0.07 over 12. And then on the bottom, a parenthesis, 1 minus, another parenthesis, 1 plus, 0.07 over 12 again. Close the first parenthesis, raise it to the, in another parenthesis, negative 12 times 30. And then we can close this last one off, and there it is. That we're going to round. We have $1,408, and we're going to round to the hundredths place because it's money. So, and 11 cents. So they're going to have to pay $14.08.11 every month for the next 30 years, on top of having to come up with that down payment and those points in order to purchase this house. Okay, that's craziness. Now Now, Patty and Marshall, they saved for many years. They finally purchased this home. They made their 15% down payment. They got their 30-year, a conventional, that's a fixed rate loan, same thing, with a 7% rate. They paid their 2 points at closing. And now it says to use their monthly principal and interest payment, that's the payment we just calculated, and the points paid for this next calculation. It says, what is the total, determine the total amount they are going to pay for their house over 30 years. So how much will they have spent all together? Well, think about what they're spending altogether. Altogether, they made a down payment, right? They made a down payment first, plus they paid points, and that was to close. And then what's going to happen? Well, they're going to make their monthly payment every month for the next 30 years. So plus, they're going to make monthly payments for the next 30 years. Now, how many monthly payments would that be? Monthly payments, that's 12 months for the next 30 years. So monthly payments, 12, how many monthly payments is that? 12 months a year times 30 years, 360. Move this. So 360 monthly payments, right? 12 months times 30 years. Times 12. Okay, so let's calculate this. They made a down payment, which was $37,350. They paid points, $4,233. See if I got that right. $37,350, $42,33. Okay, plus 360 monthly payments. Font size is all off here. 360 monthly payments, which were $14,0811 each. $14,0811. So all together now, $37,350 down plus $42,33 in points plus 360 payments at $14,0811 apiece is a whopping, where'd you go? $542.60. Yikes. Okay, remember how much this house cost? The house cost $249,000, and they, oh gosh, they only borrowed, $211,650 out of this. It's bananas. That's how much they spent on this house. Now, how much money did they pay in interest is the question now, okay? So, if the house only cost $249,000 and they spent $548,000, how much do they pay in interest? The difference, okay? So, if they, the interest, let's see, if we have the price, no. The total spent is $548,502.60. We subtract out the price, then we're going to figure out how much interest was paid. So the total amount they spent, again, was $548,502.60. But the price of the house was only $249,000. Holy moly. So if they spent $548,502.60, let's see if I can undo that. If I can get to the end of this, and I subtract out $249 was the price, that means the difference, which is $299,502.60, that's how much interest they were charged. That's how much the bank charged them to borrow that money. So not only does the bank use the house as collateral so that if you stop paying, they don't lose out in any way, right? There's no way the bank can lose. The bank can't lose. They're either going to get money from you or they're going to get the house. Now, if they end up getting money from you, they win big time because they get a ton of money in interest. Now, if you default on your loan, that's what they call it when you don't make your payments, and they end up having to repossess, that's the word for taking it away from you because you didn't pay, right? Then that would probably be the biggest loss for them, especially if your home had lost value. So if it was appraised at 250 originally and then they repossess it a year later because you haven't made any payments and it's only worth 200, then the bank loses. But those cases are rare. And especially because banks hold so many loans, they make so much money off the majority of their loans that even if they have to take a loss on a loan or two, it's not really a big deal for a bank. Anyway, this is why when you take out a mortgage, you want to try to pay more than what's required. If even though, like for Patty and Marshall here, their payment's $1,408, if you pay over that amount, you pay toward your principal, and you pay more toward your principal than the interest. So there's this whole thing called an amortization schedule. Over the 30 years of the loan, what you would see if you looked at this amortization schedule is how much of every payment goes toward the actual amount on the loan, like the actual principal on the loan, the 211 in this case, and how much goes toward the interest, the 299,502. And in the beginning of the loan, most of the payment goes to interest and only a little toward the principal, and then it starts to kind of balance where it's about half and half, and then it will shift, and toward the end of the loan you're paying more toward the actual loan amount and less on the interest. And in any amount that you pay over what you're required to pay will pay down that principal faster. And in general, the shorter loan term you take, the less you're going to pay in interest. So if you can afford a 15-year mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage, you should absolutely do it because the interest is outrageous. Okay? All right, let's try one more. This time we have the Diaz family purchasing a home for $178,000. They're going to make a 20% down payment and finance the balance with a conventional mortgage at a 4% rate. And rates right now are at about 4%. That's a pretty good rate. You might be able to get under 4. I've seen some go as low as 2.5. So those are pretty good rates. But you got to have good credit for that to work too. All right, so let's figure out first the down payment for the Diaz family. 20% of the 178 is going to be 0.2 times 178,000 here. So let's see. 0.2 times 178,000 is $35,600. Okay, so there's the down payment. And so how much are they going to mortgage? Well, the price of the house is 178, but they're going to put down 35,600. They only have to mortgage or borrow the rest. So 178,000 minus their 35,600 down payment means they're going to mortgage or borrow. I'm trying to cheat here and not have to type all this in, but don't know. Here we go. So I want 178,000, and I want to subtract out that 35,600, and so that's 142,400 left. They're going to borrow 142,400. That's still a pretty decent amount of money to borrow. Okay, now we want to calculate the payment if they were to get a 15-year loan. So their monthly payment here, they're mortgaging 142,400, and then R over N, this was a 4%, so 0.4 over N is still going to be monthly payment still, so N will be 12, and then it's going to be 1 minus 1 plus 0.4 over 12 again, raised to the negative nt power. So N is 12, time is 15 years on this version. So let's figure out what that monthly payment's going to be. So we have 142,4.04 over 12. Close that. 1 minus 1 plus 0.04 over 12. Close it, raise it to a power, and then it's going to be negative 12 times 15. Okay, so if they can get a 15-year loan, then their payment's going to be $1,053, and that would round to 32 cents. Okay, now what if it was a 30-year loan? The monthly payment for a 30-year loan, the only thing that would change would be the time. So this 0.04 over 12 doesn't change, the amount they're borrowing doesn't change. 1 minus 1 plus, this is all the same. The only difference is now our time changes to 30 here. And that's the only place in the formula we encounter t. So this should be a quick fix here in our calculator. Let's change this 15 to a 30. Now, because we've drawn out the loan for another 15 years, it significantly reduces the payment, which is why people will generally take the longer loan, because the monthly effect is a little more manageable, right? $679.84 a month is a lot more manageable than $1,053.32. Now, if in your budget you could afford the higher payment, I would say do it, and you're going to see why in the next part here. So how much money will they save if they take the 15-year loan? So if they do the 15-year loan, so 15-year loan, 12 payments times 15 years, that would be how many payments? So 12 times 15 is 180, half the time, 180 payments, okay? So 180 payments at, was it $1,053.32? How much is that total? 180 payments of $1,053.32 is a total of $189,597.60. Now, if they do the 30-year loan, so monthly payments for 30 years would be 360 payments. And the 30-year loan, these were $679.84. That would be a total of, let's see, 360 payments at $679.84 a pop. That's $244,742.40. That's a pretty big difference there, right? So if they did the 30-year, the monthly payment is cheaper, but you can see how much more they're spending overall. So $244,742.40. If we subtract out, let's find the difference between these two, the $189,597.60. That's a difference of $55,144.80 more. So let's go from here to here. That's an additional $55,144.80. $55,144.80. So they could save themselves $55,000 overall by taking the 15-year mortgage. So again, it's, the monthly payment, what's the difference there? So 1053.32 minus 679.84. If you can afford an extra $373.48 a month for 15 years, then you have 15 years less of making payments and a savings of $55,144.80 total. So they would save a lot of money. Let's put that here. $55,144.80 could be saved. Craziness. Okay, so now you have a little background on mortgages. You have a way to calculate a payment. So if you were thinking about getting a home loan, hopefully you could determine what kind of a payment would be feasible for you. Or if you can even manage a down payment, and then hopefully now this payment calculator that we're using, I just want to throw it out there. It's very generic. It doesn't take into account every little detail of your mortgage payment, and the loan and the terms of every mortgage are going to be slightly different, but this could help you ballpark a monthly payment, depending on the interest rate that you could be approved for and whatnot. So hopefully you got a little bit of a foundation going into a process. But buying a home is such a huge thing, scary thing if you ask me. But you got enough to get going at least on your practice. So hopefully, again, this is good enough for you to get started. But as always, if you need some extra help or clarification, then feel free to reach out. All right, guys, take care.